So this unit, we're going to be taking a look at everything from converting units to area to volume of different shapes. And so it's going to be a long and many-parted unit, so to speak, but we're going to cover it all kind of section by section. The first section we're going to be taking a look at is converting units, and we're going to break that into 3 separate areas as well. And the first one is looking at specifically imperial measurements. Now, imperial measurements are something that many of you know, but you might not recognize exactly the name of it. There are 4 main types, or main imperial measurements that are, that should be length measurements that are used in the imperial system. We use different imperial measurements in volume and area as well, but for the most part, when it comes to length, we deal with 4 main measurements. Those 4 main measurements, and they're listed here from biggest to smallest, are the mile. Okay, so that's something that we would measure in if we're driving. A yard. And this isn't the size of your backyard. This is a length, which is roughly about a big step. A foot, otherwise known as feet, and inches, or an inch. Now, I know it's kind of right behind. I have the short little acronym for it, or the short symbol that we use. In feet and inches, we have 2 different ones. We either can say FT or a little apostrophe for feet, or for inches, we can do IN or a double apostrophe right there. Now, each of these is related to the others in a very, let's call it a normal way. Some of you know some of the conversions already. You know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. Okay, so we can convert back and forth between that. A yard is a little bit bigger. There are 3 feet in 1 yard, which is the same as 36 inches. As well, and a mile is the same as 1,760 yards, or we just extend that a little bit, 5,280 feet. So these are our conversions and our conversion rates that we can use. Now we can also think of, again, going from one to the other here, and I'm just going to draw in some little arrows. We go from miles to yards, okay, or yards to feet. We can think of kind of converting between these measurements or back again. Okay, and I'm going to put in all the arrows, and then I'll put in the calculations that we're going to do. If we're going to do something along these lines, and we're going to go from one to the other, if we want to go from miles to yards, we need to multiply by 1,760. Okay, that's how many yards in a mile. If we want to go from yards to feet, we multiply by 3. And if we want to go from feet to inches, we multiply by 12. So if I give you a number of feet, we can multiply by 12 to figure out how many inches there are. On the opposite way, if we want to go from inches into feet, now we need to divide by 12. Okay. If we want to go from feet into yards, we divide by 3. And if we want to go from yards into miles, we divide by 1,760. So again, each one of these calculations, we can go from one to the other. If we want to go multiple steps, so let's say we want to go from miles into feet, we can multiply by 1,760 and then multiply by 3, and that would give us that as well. So that's one way of thinking about converting between lengths. Now, the reason that we convert, okay, converting is used to change units. Sorry. When a common unit is needed. Okay. Often we're going to do this when we're trying to compare 2 things. Okay, we need to compare using similar things. Okay. So when we do that, we need to make sure that we have similar units. We can't compare number of miles and number of yards because they are different. We have to put them all into a similar unit. When doing any calculations, okay, especially when we talk about area and volume, all the measurements or values must be in the same unit. Okay? It must be in the same unit. We're going to be taking a look at some examples of that coming up in just a little bit, or a little bit farther down in this lesson. To convert a measurement to a different unit, we're going to set it up as a ratio using the conversion rate. We're going to set it up as a ratio using the conversion rate, and the conversion rates are what we have right here. Okay, when you see the equals, okay, 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. 1 yard is also equal to 36 inches, so we can use that as well. So here's a couple examples. Let's do a couple examples to determine to find our ratio. Let's convert 7 feet into inches. Well, many of you understand that all you do is you multiply by 12, right? So when we go from feet to inches, we multiply by 12. I want to show you how to use a ratio, which will work for us every time. Again, sometimes it'll be a little bit more. Other times it will be a little bit simpler, okay? Depending on how complex our conversion is going to be. So to convert 7 feet in inches, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up two fractions. The first fraction we're going to do is going to have number of feet and number of inches, okay? And these need to be equal. And we don't know how many inches it is yet, but we do know how many feet. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 7 feet on top, and then we're going to do a blank. Not going to work. Okay, I'm going to just do a question mark inches. Okay, so that's what we're going to start off with. We're going to start off with the number of feet and the unknown value in inches right there. And then we're going to make a similar one that has the feet and inches in it. Okay, we know that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. We know that. So then we're going to put 1 foot on top, and we're going to put 12 inches on the bottom. So here's going to be our two equal ratios. This case here, we have our conversion rate. Okay, so that's our conversion rate. And in this case here, we have the piece of information we know and the one that we're trying to find. Now, what we do here is something that I like to call cross multiply and divide. Wherever our unknown piece, so here we have two ratios or two fractions that are equal to each other. So what we can do is we can start on the side where we have the unknown piece. And in fact, here it's on the bottom. So we're going to start right here. I'm just going to put an arrow there. And then the method, and I'm going to write it down really quick here. It's something that I call cross multiply and divide, or I like to call it also the fish method. I'll tell you why. I'll show you why in just a little bit for that. So what we do here is we start with the 7 feet, and then we're going to go across. So across means going to the opposite level, and we're going to multiply by that value. So we're going to do 7 times 12. Okay, so we're going to multiply by that value. Then we have one more piece of information that we know, and that's this 1 foot. We are going to divide by this value here. So we're going to divide by that, and that is going to equal our unknown piece of information. That's going to equal our unknown piece of information. Now let's write that out in terms of a multiplication or a statement here. We're going to start with the 7 feet. So that's where we start, and we are going to multiply my symbol for multiply. There we go. Let's multiply, little dot, by 12 inches. And then we're going to divide by 1 foot. Okay, so we are multiplying. That doesn't work. Okay. We're multiplying across, and then we're dividing by 1. Now you might recognize this. If we divide by 1, it's not going to actually change anything. What it just does is it gets rid of the units. Okay, and I won't talk too much about the units at this point, but it does get rid of the units. And so we multiply these first two, then divide. It's going to give us just inches left. Okay, inches on the bottom, and 7 times 12 is 84. So we're going to get a total of 84 inches, and that is the one that fits into the bottom right here. Okay, it fits in there. That's 84 inches. Okay, that's where we place it back in. So that tells us that 7 feet is the same as 84 inches, in the same way that 1 foot is the same as 12 inches. Okay, so that's where we get the similarity from. Let's try a couple more here. Let's convert 2 miles into yards. Okay, so we're going to start off again with a ratio. Every time that we have a conversion one, I'm going to start off with a ratio. And so we're given 2 miles, and we want to figure out how many yards. So I'm going to use an X there, question mark yards. And so we need to know our ratio. So we're going to put the mile on top, and then we want to know how many yards are in a mile. Well, there are 1,760, so 1,760 yards in a mile. Okay. So that's where we start with. Okay, that's what we start with. Now let's do a different color here. Let's do cross multiply and divide. So again, here's our unknown. Okay, here's our unknown. So we're starting on top. Okay, we multiply across. We divide. Okay, by 1, and then that is going to equal to our value here. Now you might wonder why I call it the fish method. Okay, we start here, and you'll notice that we kind of have this fish that we form. Okay, it's a little bit of what we form. That's why I call it the fish method. It's maybe another way of remembering it. All right, so let's put this into a statement. Okay, we start with 2 miles. We multiply by 1,760 yards, and we divide by 1 mile. And when we do this, now again, you can use a calculator. I'm going to be using mine. 2 times 1,760, 3,520 yards. Okay, so 3,520 yards. Let's do it again. This time we want to change 2 miles into feet. Okay, so let's change it into feet. Let's start with, let's go purple this time. It's fun choosing different colors sometimes, right? We're going to again change 2 miles into question mark number of feet. That is equal to, well, 1 mile is how many feet? We can go up here, we already have that, 5,280 feet. 5,280 feet. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize those. You'll get a formula, or you'll get a conversion page for that. Let's draw it out. Let's do red. Multiply across. Divide up, in this case. And then that equals to the number of feet. So again, going to write that out in the form of a statement. 2 miles times 5,280 feet is, and then divided by 1 mile. Again, that dividing by 1 really just changes the units. You don't have to do it with your calculator. You can just write it out, or sorry, you can just simply, you don't even have to divide by 1. 2 times 5,280 divided by 1, 10,560 feet. So 2 miles is the same as 10,560 feet. One more time, let's change it into inches. Can we change 2 miles into inches? Well, we go back to our original conversion rates here. We don't have anything with miles and inches. So we maybe we'd have to do like multiple steps, but because we've already done one of those steps here, so we already know like how many inches are in a yard or in a foot, we can just use that for the inches part. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the 10,560 feet, make a 1,560 feet, and I want to change that into a certain number of inches. There we go. Is equal to 1 foot is the same as 12 inches, and this is something that you may know already. Oh, there we go. Cross multiply and divide. So again, I'm going to be going through it. We multiply across. Okay, that's because we're starting here. Right? Then we divide by 1. Again, all that's doing right now is changing it from feet inches into just inches, and then it's going to equal to our number of inches here. Let's write that out as a statement. Okay, 4,560 feet times 12 inches, which are in each foot, divided by 1 foot, and that is going to equal 126,720 inches in 2 miles. That is a long distance, especially if you're using a 1-inch ruler. Please don't measure 2 miles with a 1-inch ruler. Converting, set up your ratio, cross multiply and divide. Make sure you understand your conversion unit, and then you can solve for the answer.